Hey, it's been a while. So, welcome to Riding Your Wave. We did one at Halloween, and then we kind of fell off the wagon because of
holiday stresses.
we did a couple of videos that just didn't turn out right. And they just, when you get done with the video and you realize that your hair's doing an opie or whatever, it just didn't work.
And although we do these to share our living room with you, there's a few things you don't really need to see.
Anyway, so it's a couple of days before Christmas. It's third day of Hanukkah. It's a couple of days before solstice. We thought we would cover winter holidays from a third culture perspective, but we also thought we would address history.
The elephant in the room?
Because history affects holidays. And we would address World War II. Because World War II is linked to Christmas in popular media. Hi. So I want to start with... Okay, 90% of what we call Christmas right now is a very Victorian imprinted aesthetic that has nothing to do with the previous 1800 years of Christmas, but has imprinted the last couple of hundred years of Christmas. The Victorian aesthetic. How do I...
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Basically, the 1850s on up gives us our modern Western cultural definition of
Christmas.
The Christmas season.
And it overshadows other cultures' variations on Christmas. But like I said, we're also addressing Hanukkah,
Saturnalia,
Kwanzaa. What do Islamic people do for Christmas?
They don't. They have Eid.
Eid, yeah. They have a small Christmas because Christ is considered a teacher. But not really Christmas. And the separation of Christmas and Santa Day. Totally different. So you go from St. Nicholas to Christmas to Santa Day, trying to take it back to St. Nicholas. It's all a confusing jumble that modern society perceives as an entirety and doesn't allow you to say, oh, no, this is. The Christmas tree comes from the Druids.
The lights come from Diwali, the Festival of Lights.
Festival of Lights, which is also Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights. It doesn't address the fact that Christianity likes to mug other religions for their traditions. Anyway, third culture perspective.
That goes all the way back to the Council of Nicaea.
Third cultural perspectives. There's a big thing that's been going on for a few years here in the United States about the war on Christmas. You can't say Merry Christmas. Yeah, you can say Merry Christmas. Nobody cares if you say Merry Christmas. We care if you tell my child he must do Christmas. We care when you don't allow us to say anything else. I've been saying Happy Holidays since I was 20.
It's all encompassing. It's not a rude thing. It acknowledges everyone's.
Yeah. When I was 20, I lived, 21, whatever. I lived with a Persian family. Going back to the fall of the Shah in Iranian. And they didn't do Christmas. But they taught me a whole bunch about a couple of other holidays that happened at the same time. And I've been saying Happy Holidays or Season's Greetings ever since. That's my pressure cooker telling me that I need to turn it off. Oh, it can wait.
Yeah, it can wait. What?
It goes to standby.
Well, that's much better than kaboom.
Do not get me started on pressure cookers on the video, or the entire video will be about stupid people and pressure cookers.
Holidays and pressure cookers and what not to do.
Yes, please stop.
I enjoy doing this so much with you. Anyway.
Okay, his pleasure in all of this is just in derailing me. That is his sole goal, is to derail me.
That's not true.
Okay, so we addressed the Victorian issue and the fact that there are hundreds of holidays that take place in the holiday season. Okay. World War II. You want to address World War II and the run-up and how World War II affects holidays from a cultural point of view, from a Hollywood point of view?
From a Hollywood Western point of view, we, in the U.S. particularly, Christmas was rolled into a whole war patriotism ethic. And you would see plenty of examples and even commercial advertising through, say, 1943, 44, and 45 specifically, with Santa Claus providing Coca-Cola to the troops and the people at home sacrificing for those in the field and all the ships at sea. And it was an integral part of U.S. commercial advertising to bring that Victorian Christmas ethic and traditions into a war footing. So it was kind of all very intertwined at that point, and that rolled on through after the war, but we're talking about the war years specifically.
Okay. First, you're going to jump up, run in the kitchen, and unplug the pressure cooker. Because I did not time this well, and I'm not going to stand up and cross in front of the camera to do it. That's all you have to do.
OP means overpressure, right?
No.
Oh.
OP means holding. So my pressure cooker's old, and I just decided I don't trust it and had a paranoid moment. It's more than that. The way World War II is taught, has been taught, starts with the U.S. involvement. But the war had been going on how long?
Well, if we look at official, commonly seen as 39 and 40 with the invasion of Poland, but in 39 we had the Anschluss begin with the German appropriation, annexation of Austria, then the Sudetenland in the Czechoslovakian region, and then Czechoslovakia
37.
itself.
37 is
About
when
that time.
Germany went on a war footing.
And we're just talking about Western war
Okay.
footing at this point. We're not even incorporating Imperial Japan and China at this point.
And we're not even incorporating Germany's hostilities towards the Slavic countries, because that's a huge issue on its own.
You could say that World War II started with the armistice in 1918.
World War II started at the end of World War I. That was just a ceasefire. And if you actually study the wars, you'll see it was just a ceasefire. Going back to Christmas, my thoughts on it are every movie you see that isn't a modern war movie, but happens to include the war, either starts on December 8th, Pearl Harbor, or takes place during Christmas time. London's always being bombed during Christmas time. There's no movies about London being bombed, at least not here in the U.S., about London being bombed in March. It's always Christmas time. See what I'm saying?
No, I'm following you.
Okay. Everything we get to digest, all of the propaganda we see, is it's Christmas time. Cabaret takes place right before the war, Christmas time. All of these things portray it as it's the holiday seasons, and that makes it that much more shocking and appalling.
But at a certain point, when you keep doing this, you provide these connections with Christmas and essentially fascism taking over.
Yeah, they're tied together.
That starts to get into the psyche a little bit.
Which is why somebody made a movie about Santa Claus and the Martians and the toy army and all of that back in the day.
Santa's work camp.
Santa's work camp. He drew comics 30, 40 years ago about Santa's work camps and how certain Nazis were actually up in the North Pole and
This was pre-social media, so that stuff has been taken over by other people and spread all over the place, but I was one of the originators.
Okay. So from a third culture perspective, when you know that colonization is endemic and you start looking at the holidays, you start questioning things. And that's one of the big wake-ups for kids. We had a timer going. It just shut itself off. Don't worry about it. You can see the timer up right there. See the timer?
Oh, you can. I can't.
Oh, okay. I can. It says 9 minutes and 50 seconds.
Right. So I can now by the clock on the wall.
I can't see the clock on the wall.
There's different things we can see and not see. It's all the part of.
Okay,
Well, back to the subject.
back to the subject. What started all this is the New York Times ran a crossword puzzle, and the base pattern of the puzzle is a swastika.
It's nothing other than a swastika.
They
It's
ran it on the
absolutely a
first day of
swastika.
Hanukkah. On the second day of Hanukkah, they ran an old newsprint story about the menorah in the window with the swastikas behind it.
It's a famous photograph from just the beginning.
And again, they have plausible deniability for why they're running it, but why would you run the swastika puzzle on the first day of Hanukkah? Because the rising levels of anti-Semiticism that are obvious in the country here, and partially in Europe as well, from what we're seeing, are starting to get disturbing. The thing to remember is Germany didn't start with the Jews at all. Germany started with the Slavs. Okay, Slavs. People from Eastern Europe do not consider themselves white. We call them white. People in America think that a Russian is white. Russians do not call themselves white. You have to remember that. They don't consider themselves Asian either, but they are something in the middle. And how many times have you seen somebody went, oh, that's a Russian? Or that person's Eastern European? You can tell. Okay, there are phenotypes. There are physical structural differences and language differences you can tell. Germany started with the Slavs.
And from there, they moved right up to mentally ill, infirm,
Homeless, career criminals.
the Zigeuner situation, which was the German for gypsy. So they worked
Romani.
against the Romani, and that's well recognized now.
Okay. They didn't start with Judaism. It was their intention to go for. From the beginning, you can see the laws started shifting against Jewish business owners and whatnot from the beginning. But the first concentration camps were full of Slavs. Okay, that said.
Political prisoners and habitual criminals, they called them at the time.
Yeah, and mentally ill and physically defective, and they didn't go after the LBGT until the Kristallnacht.
Yeah, until long knives.
Long knives, yeah.
When they eliminated the SA, basically the stormtroops that fought on the streets to bring in the Nazi regime, when they decided they were a liability, they went after all that.
And that's when they went after trade unionists and communists first, and that's a code word for mostly Slavic peoples in Germany. You have to understand, in Germany, what something is somewhere. In France, it might have been something different. In France, the trade unionists would have been Spaniards.
Yeah, I need to interject one more thing
Okay.
here, because in the 1920s in Germany, after World War I, when the political unrest started, the only political social group that combated the original Nazis were the communists in Germany, and they ran under something called council communism, which was trade union based.
Yeah.
So when the Nazis obtained power, the first thing they went after was the trade unionists and the communists.
Which were the Slavic people in Germany.
Yes,
And as I was saying, in France, that would have been the Spaniards.
exactly.
Had it started in France, they would have gone after Spaniards first. And again, there's a genetic, physical, at a glance, visual difference between the two peoples. Okay? So that is where fascism starts. Here in the U.S., we're getting all this increased anti-Semitism. But understand, it's the same time we're getting all this increased anti-immigrant.
Oh yeah.
But they're not talking all immigrants. They're only talking south of the border immigrants. Why? Because they have a distinct visual difference. And they all come from socialist kind of leaning countries.
Is that the whole dark hair thing?
Okay? It's that whole short and dark hair with swarthy complexions. Okay? So here in the U.S., they will go after Hispanic people. But not all Hispanic people. There's a dividing line there. Immigrants. Before they go after Jewish people. And the end result in the U.S. is not to eradicate the Jewish people. The end result in the U.S. is the eradication of black people from the fascist point of view. Okay? So the Jewish people in the U.S. become the Romani in Germany. They're just a middle ground that looks like, that they just want to knock out just for the fun of it. But their end goal is black people. And that's fascism in the U.S. How does this come to Christmas? We're getting there. We're getting there.
As you've seen from previous videos that we've done, we always get to an end story. It might not be where you thought we started, but
we'll
it gets there.
Here in the U.S., the right wing. Okay, QAnon. Everybody laughs about QAnon unless they're part of QAnon. If you actually read everything QAnon is saying, you're going to see 1952 KKK talking points. How do I know? Because a person in my life was part of the KKK when I was a kid, and I heard it all at the dinner table ad nauseum. The KKK is inherently anti-Jewish, anti-union, anti. All of QAnon's accusations, their pedophiles, was being spread in 1952 against Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference now is they've given it a newer name, QAnon. Okay? You get to Alex Jones and claiming that the government is spreading gay frog DNA to turn men gay.
It's those frogs. Watch out for those frogs. And that's not even a euphemism for French people. It's just literally amphibians.
Yeah, and literally amphibian DNA is turning men gay, according to them. Whatever, okay? I have no patience for people who well, some of it sounds, no. Okay, I've gotten caught a couple of times on a couple of minor points because, ooh, wow, let me track that back. Oh, okay, devalued. Track it back. Just go to your favorite search engine, I don't care which one, and type in gay frog DNA. And it'll give you who source it is.
And what doesn't track to Jurassic Park tracks. Yeah. That's where we are now.
Okay. Go back and watch all the black and white Twilight Zones where they talk about mass hysteria and riling people up into mobs. Because that's what they're trying to do, because that's what they're doing. Understand that it takes less than 10% of a population to have a successful revolution. Okay? That's known fact. It takes less than 10% of the population to take over a country.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? We're there right now. Understand the concept of good life, which goes way back, and is if not for, then not against. If you're not actively protesting them, you're part of them. Silence equals death. Okay? That's where we're at on that. Now, what we're seeing with the war on Christmas is simply a war on everything not white and Christian. And we're making jokes about it. You're not persecuted. No, you don't understand. An accusation by a narcissist is
An admission.
A confession.
Mm-hmm.
So when they say war on Christmas, they're not saying you're attacking me. They're admitting that they're attacking you. And anybody in your life that goes off about the war on Christmas has a level of hatred and bigotry centered in their soul that they are directing directly at you with a smile.
And the amazing thing is many of these people don't even realize that.
They're not conscious of it. You get programmed in shit when you're a kid to the point where you just accept it as fact. And if you don't look into it as an adult, the other night I got bored. I went and reread half of the Holocaust Museum's database. I put a few hours in because I wanted to understand, when did it start? Where did it start? It started in 1917. Nazism started in 1917 and evolved step by step, every step of the way. Okay? The biggest takeaway was the moment they get into power, they cause chaos. Do you remember Trump's first year? Chaos and confusion, so that there's plausible deniability while they're changing laws.
And you're given things in nice little sound bites and slogans which sound really good and they appeal to the emotions.
And you're given things. You're given cash. You're given new parks. Things look better. The homeless problem gets better. Nobody asks where they went. Okay? Trump did that his first year. chaos and confusion and keeping things riled up. If and when the next time a MAGA-centered Republican gets into power, it's going to be chaos and confusion while they take over, and that's what they do. Okay, Christmas. As a small child, you're taught certain things, and you accept them. When you get a little bit older, you start looking into it, and you go, wait a minute. How many people here still believe in Santa Claus? Don't. Okay, what part of don't are you ignoring? The right wants to say that you're woke, and it's critical race theory to question the histories you were taught as a child. But we questioned Santa Claus, and we found out that Santa Claus doesn't exist. That Santa Claus is a concept, a feeling.
A construct, a philosophy.
Yes, a social construct.
Mm-hmm.
It's not woke to say that Santa Claus doesn't exist. It's practical. As a kid, you're taught that the Pilgrims sat down with the Native Americans and had the first Thanksgiving. And as you get older and you look into that, you find out that while they were sitting down and having that quote-unquote first Thanksgiving, some of those Pilgrims went over to the village and slaughtered all the wives and children. That's not woke.
Can it bring me into another Christmas story?
Sure.
During the American Revolutionary War, Washington's crossing the Delaware. That was on Christmas Day, to sneak across the Delaware and murder the Hessian mercenaries in their sleep on Christmas Day.
So you get this beautiful visual of Washington crossing the Delaware, and it's a Christmas miracle to murder people.
Of course, there are foreign troops and all that type of thing, but it's
to murder people.
But it's generally not something that's generally seen as good form on the battlefield.
To murder people. That's not war. War is not sneaking in and murdering people. If you have to slit their throat, it's an act of war. It's a war crime.
That's my transgression.
There was a meme the other day about what do you call a covert operation on foreign soil?
Terrorism?
Or an act of war. Terrorism, an act of war, a war crime. It's not something to as much as I have friends who are Navy SEALs that I really like and enjoy and respect and all of that, it's a war crime. Anyway.
Combat vets here, both of us.
Anyway.
We're both medical.
Yeah, I did serve a medical position.
See? As did I.
Yeah, we're going to leave that alone right now. Okay. Christmas, World War II, sliding into... Okay, going back. When did the Korean War end?
It didn't. We are still in the Korean War. It was only a ceasefire.
It was only a ceasefire. When did World War II end?
Officially, it ended with the Imperial Japan signing the surrender on the USS Missouri in Subic Bay.
Okay. In Germany.
It was VE Day when it was signed.
In Germany. When the war ended, quote unquote, what did all of the Nazis do the next day? They went to work.
They did.
They took off their little lapel pins and they went to work. 90% of them, 95% of them.
The ones that were not directly charged with war crimes and tried at Nuremberg and executed. But everyone else, there is a blanket amnesty, become productive citizens.
They just, if they were a bureaucrat, they stayed a bureaucrat. If they were a doctor, they stayed a doctor. If they were a school teacher, they stayed a school teacher.
If they were a captain of industry, they stayed there.
Okay. Nothing changed except the uniforms. World War II did not end. It was a ceasefire. For a war to end, you have to change the political structure of the country. Now, Germany was split in half, which pissed a lot of people off, and half of it was given to Russia, who Germany considered their mortal enemy.
Technically, it was split evenly between all of the Allies.
Yes.
But the Soviet Union kept their part.
Yes. Okay. And they cleaved off a few countries that shouldn't have been absorbed in. But when the wall fell with the Soviet Union and Germany reunited, that is when the next World War phase started. Okay? Angela Merkel kept it at bay for her career. She's brilliant, brutal. I would call her a dictator, but people would be offended.
And she had the advantage of being from East Germany, working under the previous Warsaw Pact system, and then being able to unite Germany on that. So that was the only way that
it worked.
That it worked.
But it's not there now. And Germany has been nationalizing industry for the last year. And it's not making the U.S. press. They just nationalized a Finnish energy company. Okay? That's something to keep a watch for. Do I think Germany's going to stage World War III? No. Because I don't consider it World War III. I consider it a continuation of the World War. And the World War is the war between fascism, communism, and capitalism.
And we're fresh out of communists.
And we're fresh out of communists except for China, and nobody wants to go up against China because... Okay, Mexico has no air force. You know this, right? You do know this, right? They have like 3 helicopters and 1 jet.
Yeah, you got a 727 and some Cessnas.
And some Cessnas. Canada has no air force. Canada has like 20 jets that are all in their air show team. Other than that, they have ground crew, but they don't have jets.
They have some transport ability, but...
Okay, that's it.
The fighter squadrons are pretty much gone.
Okay. Most of the world has been descaling its military while the U.S. has been building up. But the U.S. does not have the military the U.S. presents as. Because on paper, we should have 100 B-2s, but in reality, we have 14.
And they all just got grounded.
So
we're relying on...
B-52s.
Yeah, 70-year-old bombers.
Okay. China has kept up its military. Russia has... We saw that. If Russia had Air Force, they would have taken over Ukraine within 2 weeks. Russia, something went wrong with their Air Force at the beginning of that invasion.
That's a wake-up call to all of us who've been following militaries across the world.
So I don't consider it World War III. I consider it the World War, and it's capitalism, communism, fascism. Those are the 3 forms of government. And monarchy, but monarchy's kind of obsolete now, and monarchy has become capitalism.
Yeah, constitutional monarchy basically supports capitalist societies.
Okay. That is the war that has been roiling the planet for hundreds of years. Since colonies died. Since monarchy died as a form.
Yeah, essentially World War I started this, and we're still in it.
Yeah. Okay. Do I think Germany's going to be a major aggressor? No. Do I think fascism is going to be a major aggressor? Yes. Do I think half of Europe is going fascist very, very politely? Yes. I think they're voting fascists in. Do I think that the U.S. wants fascism? I think that a good proponent does. Anybody in your life who claims to be a libertarian and starts quoting Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers is fascism.
Some would say that's benevolent fascism, but
there's no such thing as benevolent fascism. Really to have fascism, you have to have somebody you target.
And it requires a fairly high degree of nationalism to have fascism.
Yeah. To have capitalism, you have to have war. Did you know that? Capitalism is a conquest economy. You have to be conquesting. That was colonialism. Right now, the United States is afloat, and the reason we didn't sink 2 years ago is the Ukraine war. Because we're putting billions of dollars into it, but we're not giving them $1 billion cash. We're giving them tools and equipment and airplanes, and then we have to hire people to build them. So we're giving the money to the businesses
and if you watch,
to support the war.
If you watch the way this works but we aren't giving Ukraine U.S. fighters. No, we're having NATO countries who also flew Soviet period jets provide those aircraft to Ukraine, and then we resupply those NATO allies with U.S. hardware. Come in northern,
Which is also why so many countries that refused to join NATO before are starting to join NATO now. It's like, oh, I can get some free fighter jets.
We had
previously, I need some tanks.
I'm talking about Sweden and Finland here.
Okay.
Technically neutral countries are now applying for membership in NATO and getting fast-tracked. Turkey's on the edge. Turkey is a NATO member.
Turkey's a NATO member in name only. Turkey is a Russian colony at this point.
But we're not about to lose Incirlik Air Base in Turkey. That's a primary conduit from east to west for us, us being the U.S.
Yeah. Anyway, we're at the 30-minute mark, and I wanted to address that when somebody says the war on Christmas, they're telling you they don't believe you have the right to have any other holiday. That is their war. They are fighting a war against you. And that in 2013, I first posted on social media that I was seeing war drums based on what I was seeing in how the pieces on the board are getting moved in Europe. And I continue to see war drums because capitalism cannot exist without wars. And we talk about the human damage of war and the human toll of war, but look at it from a strictly capitalist. And I don't mean, okay, people think that they're capitalists because they live in a capitalist society. Unless you own 16 rentals that you are profiting off of, you're not a capitalist because you own no capital.
No.
You have to own capital to be a capitalist.
Private property and personal property are not the same thing.
Are not the same thing. Okay, unless you own the building your business is in, you're not a capitalist. Okay, that said, capitalism. Look at it from a strictly capitalism point of view. We have a war. This war is global. We have China against Japan, against Vietnam flaring back up and Korea flaring back up, and all of Asia's inflamed in that, and we're ignoring it for a while because that's what the U.S. does, against Europe, against the U.S. dividing because the U.S. wants to divide because there are people who want a separation. It's been going on for over 25 years. Okay, Greater Idaho, bullshit, Cascadia, all that. You have war. Buildings are destroyed. Roads are destroyed. The infrastructure, the electrical system goes down. You're a capitalist. What do? You profit.
Yeah, because now you have contracts to rebuild all these things.
Okay.
People are hired, machinery is built, building supplies are manufactured.
And you have public support for rebuilding. Okay. Yeah. A capitalist only profits in war. Yeah, they might lose their building the first time. They have insurance. Most insurances don't cover acts of war. You say, no, most private insurances don't cover acts of war. There are plenty of corporate insurances that do. Okay, that said, communism. Communism can't come back without war. Okay? Communist revolutions start in the lower income, lower education fields. Communist revolutions are usually driven by farmers and factory workers. In the U.S., right now, those are MAGAs. Those are fascists right now. Fascist revolutions usually start with farmers and factory workers because fascism and communism are inherently enemies. Okay? They cannot coexist. You can have fascism and capitalism, and you can have communism and capitalism, but you cannot have fascism and capitalism. Okay? Why? Because communism is against
Fascism and communism.
Communism.
Yep.
Communism is against nationalism, and fascism depends upon nationalism. So it's nationalistic versus non-nationalistic. Okay. Christmas. Christmas is the most capitalist event on the planet every year. The most. If you have a war against Christmas, you have a war against capitalism. Okay? So, can you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
Thoughts?
Oh, I was just going back to your communism and nationalism, because you can absolutely have nationalistic communism, as like the Soviet Union was very nationalistic. And that's the approach of Marxist-Leninism.
At the base start, though.
At the base start, yeah.
Okay. See, I learned something. They are still enemies, though. Fascism and communism are enemies.
Yeah. Absolutely. That part is a true.
Yeah.
It's a truth. QED.
It's the nationalism that I would... Yeah. Okay. I don't... I'll have to read up more on that because we did a test on what type of communist are you, and we're like that far apart.
Well, sort of.
On that small spectrum.
We'll save you until last.
We'll shoot you first. Anyway, watch the people who say war on Christmas to you. Watch the people who get indignant and offended because they're betraying their inner thoughts, and Christmas has become the rallying cry of capitalism. And just because you're anti-capitalist does not mean that you're communist. People don't understand that. It's the same with ecology.
You look at corporatist market economy, corporatist economy, and you look at small level capitalism, and it's all different. But that would cover very many more hours than we have here.
And we've already gone way over on this one. So we're going to wrap up here and ask any questions in the comment stream. Subscribe to the channel.
Subscribble. As Andy Bumatai would say.
As Andy Bumatai would say, hit like, subscribe. It's the only way we know you saw this. And ask questions, and we'll do a follow-up on individuals. We still haven't gotten to the rest of the whole moving in, letting go, all of that, plastic-free.
We have our prompts right in front of us, and we haven't touched it at all in this session.
We got culture and cultural perspective.
That's true, we did.
Okay, but there's so much back history that I wanted to cover, and we'll go over some more. Okay?
Meanwhile,
Christmas will be over by the time the next video comes out, so not Christmas specific.
Exactly.
You know?
So
anyway,
meanwhile, Merry Christmas.
Push the button.
That's your cue to say Happy Holidays.
Happy Holidays.